Hey guys, for you to show you how to take the information that I've already given you and how to create it into this wonderful essay. And I've decided to call it the magic of creating your essay. So this is what you have for all three chapters. I'm doing this with chapter 1 so I can give you full examples. And of course we're using chapters 4, 5, and 6. But I have a question of who did Hitler cause World War II? And so that's the the question I'm answering. So the first thing is chapter 1, the Treaty of Versailles, and I've decided my two things that will answer how did Hitler cause World War II is the terms of the Treaty of Versailles and the reaction to the Treaty of Versailles. And the terms have been broken down into the War Guilt Clause and reparations, and the reaction has been broken down into Germany and others. So this is the exact outline that you guys have been working on for each of your three chapters. Everyone has an outline and has been approved. So you take this outline and I'm going to show you how to work your magic. So let's go to the next slide. So we've got the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. There's our little outline again. And so this time we're just going to talk about the terms. So we've got the terms and the War Guilt Clause is going to be one paragraph. And the other paragraphs is the terms and reparations. So I can write really fast. So right there are my two paragraphs. The terms, the War Guilt Clause, the Treaty of Versailles was very harsh in its punishment to Germany. The Germans were forced to accept all the blame for starting the war with the War Guilt Clause, which is Article 231. This was not true since the Austro-Hungarian Empire had started it as a retaliation to the murder of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by the Black Hand. Since Germany had to accept the blame, many harsh punishments were applied to them, such as reparations, loss of land, and reduced military. My second paragraph I wanted to write is about reparations. Reparations was a huge determinant to Germany. Not only was the sum a huge amount, 6.6 billion pounds, but many ways that Germany could pay for the reparations was taken away from them. Germany lost many colonies and territories. Many of the factories that Germany had were in the Ruhrgebiet. This area was given to France, Alsace-Lorraine. Also, other factories were located in the demilitarized zone that Germany was not able to protect since they had lost a lot of their military. The army was limited to 100,000 men, only 6 battleships, and no armored vehicles, submarines, or aircrafts. Germany also had many colonies under their control that allowed them to make money. They were also taken away from them. The sum of the reparations was enormous, and Germany would not be able to pay for this. Later, in 1929, it was reduced under the Young Plan. Now, remember what I had said is the terms should be around 250 words. So I actually counted to make sure I had 250 words, which I've always said is about 125 per paragraph. Now obviously the War Guilt Clause you can see is a much smaller paragraph than the reparations, it's much bigger, but overall this was running around 250 words. So that is what I'm hoping everyone already understands how to do, is you take that and make it a B question. You're explaining why the War Guilt Clause possibly caused Hitler to start World War II, and you're explaining why reparations could possibly allow Hitler to start World War II. So again, you can always tweak that question, but you're explaining why. You are not describing what the War Guilt Clause is. You are not describing what reparations are. You're explaining those two things and how those things could have allowed Hitler to cause World War II. So our next one, there's our thing again. We'll take away the terms because we've already written that. So now we have the reaction. So how did the reaction of the Treaty of Versailles allow Hitler to start World War II or cause Hitler to start World War II? Okay, so now we need to explain that. So my quick writing. So the reaction from Germany, many Germans were outraged by the treatment of the Treaty of Versailles. They were not invited to join the Paris Peace Conference, and they had to accept the terms that were given to them. In Germany, political violence broke out. The people who signed the treaty were called the November criminals. When Germany was unable to pay back its debts fast enough, France took over the Ruhr. This caused many deaths and hard feelings for Germany. Hyperinflation was created in order to pay back many debts. The value of the currency dropped so far that people were having to bring in wheelbarrows of money just to buy bread. Germany was also insulted they were not allowed to join the League of Nations until they could prove to be a peaceful, loving nation. And the reactions of the others? Although other people might see this as harsh as well, Germany did worse to Russia in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in 1918. France did not believe that Germany was treated harshly enough. As shown from above, they invaded the war to get the money back they felt they deserved. Britain believed that the terms were too harsh and wanted to be able to trade with Germany. Later, in 1935, Britain signed a naval agreement allowing Germany to have up to 35% of the size of the British Navy. In America, Wilson did not believe the treaty was in line with his 14 points. For example, many of German former territories and colonies, that's spelled really bad, were not given self-determination, freedom to choose how they would be ruled, but were told who they now belonged to and who would rule them. So, this also goes in my 250 words. This is actually pretty well divided, 125 and 125. And both of these paragraphs explains how the reactions of either the Germans or the other people allowed Hitler, kind of sets you in the mood, oh yeah, that's really bad, so when Hitler comes in, he can take advantage of it. Okay? Now, one thing I really want to point out, this right here, I don't think it'll let me highlight, but later in 1935, Britain signed a naval agreement allowing Germany to have 35% of the size of the British Navy. Now that is in Chapter 3, and that is okay to use some information from Chapter 3 into here. I could have also used the word appeasement in here somewhere. Not really sure, but I know that I could have used that word appeasement in there. Right here. Oh, you'll see it later. You haven't seen it yet. So anyway, you can pull things in. I could have pulled out some League of Nations things as long as it's about the reactions to the treaty and explaining how that could have set up to allow Hitler to be able to do it. Okay? So, now becomes the magic. So, here is the first one, the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, that we'd seen the slide before with the War Guilt Clause and reparations. What I'm going to do is insert an introduction. The Treaty of Versailles sets the stage for World War II. Many people actually believe there was only one war with a 20-year pause in the middle. I'm going to show you how the treaty caused World War II by looking at the terms and the reaction to them. So we've already written this terms, we've already discussed it, we've already showed how we do it. Now we've got the second part, the reaction. Already read them, already discussed it, and I'm just going to pop a little conclusion there. As you can see from the above, the treaty was very harsh to Germany. It did not allow Germany to remain a productive country, but to punish them continually. I believe the way the treaty was set up allowed Hitler to be able to come to power and use it to get the German people to fight against the rest of the world. He uses their sense of pride to fight back. The War Guilt Clause caused Germany to be very bitter. This allowed Hitler to fight back against it. Only France was really for the treaty, where Britain and America believed it was too harsh. This also allowed Germany to regain its former glory, since the two colonies would not oppose what Germany would do in the future. So right here, this is where I talk about, I could use the word appeasement, which we know comes all the time in Chapter 3. So, I hope that you can see that. Let's see if I can go back and show you that one more time real fast. For those who've got it, you don't need to pay attention anymore. For those who want one more quick review, I'll do it again real fast for you. So here are the things you already have. So we're going to look at the terms. We're going to explain why the War Guilt Clause and reparations, how they could help cause Hitler to take over. So basically I'm explaining what the War Guilt Clause and how that helped allowed Hitler to be able to take over. Then we do it again with the reaction. So there's my two reaction papers explaining how the reaction could basically help set up. Now, I don't specifically say in any of these 4 paragraphs that it is Hitler's fault or it's not Hitler's fault. So that's where it's a little bit different than our normalcy paragraphs. I just basically explain and allude to it. So I give you the impression. So then when we come here, we're back to the War Guilt Clause and reparation paragraphs. Then I just insert an introduction, which is very, very short. And then I go to the next one. And then I insert the conclusion. Now the conclusion is where you really show that those 4 paragraphs that I wrote, how it allowed. So this is obviously a paragraph that states that Hitler caused World War II. And later, we'll go ahead and build the whole thing later, and I'll discuss that when we get back to school. I hope that helps you. You will be able to see this presentation in your classroom, And I've also added in your classroom this whole thing as a document. So here's the exact same thing I just did, and it looks like a document versus a slideshow. So as a document, you can see here is what you have that you've already done. Then you do not write the introduction yet. You go and you write one paragraph about the war guilt clause, one paragraph about reparations, one paragraph about Germany's reactions, and one paragraph about the other reactions. When those 4 paragraphs are written, you insert a little introduction, and you insert a conclusion that really explains how Hitler used the Treaty of Versailles to allow him to start World War II. Obviously, he didn't really want to start a war. He just wanted to take over, and if he could do it without starting war, that would have been fine for him. But that's all in the spinning of history. So I hope that helps you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Talk to you later. Bye.